It's incredible, this, isn't it? The technology.
It's a crazy world.
It's a crazy world. So I'm so honored and thrilled today. We have Mike Campbell in our midst, and yay! Mike, you don't really need any introduction. You're just Mike.
Okay.
It's just the best. But this morning and today I've been listening a lot to Reckless Abandon. What a great record. How are you feeling since
Here's
it came
my
out?
introduction.
Woohoo! I love that because it's in the video, isn't it? At the end of Reckless Abandon.
You know, I'd forgotten about that till you told me. But we did that last year, early in the year. I completely forgot about it until you know. But yeah, we put our record out in November. We were going to put it out in March, obviously, and and then we pushed our tour back till 2022, because
Really?
But the record came out in November, and it's doing pretty well. You know, people like it, and I like the sound of it. And we had a blast, so on we go.
People love it. I love it. I love the lyric on Irish Girl, when you feel the night blowing through your bones. What a beautiful lyric.
Thank you very much.
I love that.
Appreciate that.
And the video with the collage and the nostalgia, how did the video come about?
You know, that was a friend of someone my manager knew, and he put it all together. And he does those kind of things, you know, kind of caricature, cartoony things. But it fit the song perfectly, you know, the Irish cobblestone streets and the buildings and the little girl, little Irish girl.
Yeah. At the end, when your voice is solo, you really hear the reverb you used, and it's a beautiful sounding reverb. It's great.
No idea what that was. You know, my engineer. I didn't get into the mixing too much. I just played and sang. And I have a great team, so they did something with the vocal.
Yeah. It's wonderful when you have a team that you can really rely on, that you're not having to put every hat on, so to speak. You've got writer, producer, bandmate. Yeah, exactly. It's good that when you can delegate.
Yeah, I wear many hats, but I know what you mean. Yeah, you know. I mean, I kept an ear on the production, but I found out pretty early I could trust them to get me what I want, you know. So I left it up to them mostly.
Yeah, that's great.
We did it really fast, and it's a band playing live in the studio, which is what I wanted. And we're already thinking about making another one.
Brilliant. And this record was mainly cut live. How was that experience for you, just to get in the studio with your guys and play live?
Well, yeah, it was before COVID, so we were just business as usual. But I didn't want to make a record that was layered. I wanted it to sound like we sound when we play, you know, live. And that's pretty much what we did. We just had the songs, played them 2 or 3 times, you know, and then we went on to the next song. All the solos are live, you know, 98% of them.
Yeah.
And half the vocals are probably, I went back and fixed some of the vocals because they went out of tune here and there. But the band is all performing, you know, start to finish, no technology or anything.
It's beautiful. It's and I love the way that it's very dynamic record. It's not all just one tempo or one sound. You're quite a diverse band, which I really love.
Yeah, thank you. That's because we play together. We've been together for 15 years. So we have a natural dynamic of when to get quiet and loud together, and how to, you know, move around within the song to make it feel like it's a live experience. So it was really, you know, pretty easy. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, bang, bang, bang. That was good. What's that?
That's so brilliant. Can I ask about your videos on Instagram? I know that Marcy is a great director as well. Do you guys come up with concepts, where to do it, what song? Do you discuss it, or is it quite improvisational?
It's mostly made up, you know, but we will have a discussion about, well, where do you want to. I started out controlling everything, and then I realized she had a great eye. So now I just ask her what, you know, I have an idea of a song or two, and she'll say, how about that song? And I'll say, okay, where do you want to film it? You know, and she'll go, how about this corner? The sunlight's coming in that window or whatever. We just hit it up whatever day, and it's a great collaboration because we don't really worked together in the past, but on this we actually work together, and we have fun, you know, sharing the experience. And I give her a lot of responsibility, which she likes, and she's really good.
Yeah, she's got a great eye for fashion, style, and creativity. It takes a certain kind of person to be able to be flexible and collaborate, and that's something you're the master of. Do you feel when you're writing, you like to leave space for other people to come in, or do you approach it
control everything? My song, so it goes this way. Play this, play that, and shut up.
Right. My poor sister will probably say the same thing about me, but I'm like that.
Well, I like to write the songs. Most of the songs I wrote on my own, most of them. But when it comes to the performance of the band we play, I like to let them just play what they think, you know. And most of the time, I don't have to say anything because they have an empathy with me.
Yes. Yeah, you can hear it. So, for example, with a song like Boys of Summer, did you have a very strong feeling about the tempo, the key,
well, that was
the groove?
that was a whole different way of making records. That was like, what, 40 years ago? At the time, that was built around the drum machine groove and some keyboards, and it was piecemeal. It was layered up more than a piece at a time, which I played most of the instruments myself. So there was no band performance on that one. It was a built-up track in the studio. And Don wrote the words and sang over it. So there's another way of making records. Jeff Lynne makes records like that too.
Yes, he works with the simple drum machine, doesn't he? So there's lots of space.
Yeah, very simple beat just to keep the time. And then you can put the drums on where you want, put the guitar on where you want, and kind of orchestrate the
We've got a little bit of feedback. I think that's on my end.
Yeah. That is exciting. Spontaneous.
We're just going back in time. How's that?
There's Jeff Lynne's approach to making records, which I love, is similar to the Boys of Summer, where you start with a basic feel and orchestrate the vocals and guitars and everything above it. And then the other way of making records is just how the Heartbreakers started out playing live in the studio. And that's what the Dirty Knobs record is about, playing live in the studio. You know, that's the other way of making records, which is kind of more fun most of the time. But I like both ways, you know, whatever makes the song good. I
remember hearing that when you did Refugee, you did something like 70 takes.
Yeah.
And was that just all of you playing at the same time?
Yeah.
Until you felt you got it?
Yeah, we were so green, we didn't realize you could cut takes together. So we'd go, well, there was a mistake, so let's do the whole song from start to finish. And I had this great demo that I had done on my own on a 4-track. And we were having a hard time getting the band to tune into that groove. And it just took a long time to get the sounds and the groove and the performance all at the same time. I mean, that was really, I don't really want to make a record like that ever again.
I don't blame you. It's really hard work, isn't it, when you're...
It can be. You can take the fun out of it when you get too serious.
Yes, seriousness is not important. And when you were cutting things with the Heartbreakers, did you often go back to the original guitar part you had in the demo?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Did you try and relearn it? Because it was probably improvisational.
It was a game we called Beat the Demo. When you have that moment and you create a little demo that everything works, and then you go to try to make a big record out of it, you've got to have those elements. So I would have to go back and reteach myself the guitar part as best I could so that it sounded like the demo. All the good elements of the demo would go to the master record. And then sometimes you add other stuff to it that was not on the demo, but you start with just trying to recreate whatever the magic of the demo was that inspired the song in the first place.
Yes. So what feeling do you have when you're onto something really creatively exciting, and how do you support that feeling to continue?
It's an amazing feeling. You know, being a writer is a blessing, and I write all the time, and it's just like some people have described it as kissing God. You know, when you become open in that muse and it's channeling to you, it's like the most amazing, I mean, it's better than any drug I've ever had. It's a great, you know, you connect, I don't want to get, you know, philosophical, but you kind of connect with a universal energy, and you're fortunate to have that moment, you know, where you get an idea from somewhere. It comes from somewhere.
It's such a mysterious feeling, isn't it? Because it just
but it's addicting, and it's overwhelming, and I'm kind of maybe obsessed with it, but that's what I do. You know, I love to try to get that switch to turn on and write songs. You know, that's my great pleasure in life.
Do you find, well, you do it so beautifully. Do you find sometimes when you're listening to a song that really inspires you, that takes you into a place where you feel a bit more creative?
You mean someone listening to someone else's song?
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens all the time. I mean, you know, and in fact, it's almost a curse, because if say I get up in the morning and I put on XM radio or whatever, and I usually go to the 60 stations, and I hear some song that I remember that I really liked, you know, and I'll be listening, go, oh yeah, I love this. But then in the next minute or so, I'm analyzing, well, what do I love about this? Ooh, it's that chord or that feel. And then I can borrow that. I can use that. So then I turn it off and I go work on my own song based on that. But that's an inspiration. And that's what, you know, you mentioned that song, Irish Girl, happened that way. I was in my car and I heard a Van Morrison song, an old song. I don't remember what it was. It was with the band Them.
Yes.
And I loved the simplicity of it and the lilt of and so I came home with that in my mind and tried to write something in that vein.
Yes.
And that happens all the time. You hear something that you really like, it inspires you to either learn it or try to do something like that.
Yeah, I love to learn other people's songs. I always liken it to growing something in a field that I'm just going to turn back into the field, and then one day if a seed lands in there. A couple of people have said we've got a little bit of echo, and I wondered if you would mind.
Away from the other one. Is that
that's a great idea. Maybe just turn the volume down on one.
I'm not. Well,
one device. Thank you, Mike.
Can I still hear you?
Hello, hello.
Yeah, that should do it.
Oh, you brilliant person. So
you too.
You are. So over this month, Mike, I've been doing a series about women in music, because this is International Women's Month in March. And I'd love to get your take on it, because you've been in bands with women and without women. And how did it feel? What's the difference to you? Was it different just being with the lads to having chicks there?
You mean you and Charley?
Or with the women in Fleetwood Mac?
Yes. Yeah, it was boys club with the Heartbreakers for decades. And I know Stevie always wanted to join the band, and he said, but there's no girls in the Heartbreakers. Right. And then you guys came along, and it was really refreshing. And I mean, I love women as a species more than men, actually. They're less aggressive and more creative and smarter. So I love working with women, and especially when they're so talented. And you guys came in, and we were able to do other songs in our catalog that we couldn't do because the harmonies were difficult. And we could, with you there, we could go, well, like Rocking Around With You. That's pretty difficult harmonies, 3-part harmony. And we were able to do that song with you guys. And so that was exciting. And I just like the energy of, just, balancing out all that testosterone up there is kind of nice.
It's true. It's wonderful to have that dynamic, isn't it? Of men and women and the interaction and the support of each other. Yeah. Also, we've been discussing a lot about vulnerability and how to navigate that. What are some of the tools in your toolbox, spanner, hammer, when you feel a bit uncertain or there's a stressful situation, particularly on the road, because we know it can get exhausting over a period of time? What kind of tools do you have in your toolbox to support you?
Pills or tools? or tools, not pills. Well, on the road, usually the audience takes care of that. You know, if I'm feeling insecure or like, why am I in the music business at all? You know, one of those kind of days.
I love that question. Pops up.
When I see the crowd, they like, oh, well, you know, they all showed up for this. They want to have some fun, and they came to see me play, so I better play, you know. And so that gets me through. And when I'm at home and I have, you know, moments of doubt or whatever, insecurity, I just stop what I'm doing, go walk the dogs or clear my head, you know, do something different for a while and wait for it to come back. It always comes back. You know? But you don't want to get stuck in a rut of self-doubt. That's a trap.
It's a trap, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it's, I always liken it to like sailing a boat. You got to know which sail to put up. It's
the tortured artist effect.
Completely.
Yeah.
One of our friends just said they've still got a little bit of echo. Sorry about that, dudes.
Well, I could try to move this over somewhere. I don't want to turn it down too much or I won't be able to hear you.
No. Well, that might be preferable.
I'll turn it down
Never know.
a little bit.
Thank you.
I don't hear it here, so.
Okay. I have one device muted at the moment and one on. We're very technological here, folks. Mike's got iPad, phone. We're rocking it. So when you get back off the road and you're back home, what are some of your go-to things to do that you've missed doing or to relax?
Well, the studio. I mean, I'm obsessed with music. I like animals. I play with my animals. I have grandkids. I like to play with the family, hang out with them. I watch movies like anybody else. You know, I read a little bit. I should read more, but I watch a lot of movies and listen to music and write and record music. I'm very basically a pretty simpleton.
Sounds
I don't
beautiful.
have any other talents. You know.
Well, I'd say you really do. It's wonderful to have that dynamic and friends and family to come back to. And I imagine if people don't have that, it might be more difficult to navigate getting home and unraveling what they've been doing.
Well, the Heartbreakers, we were always really careful to not tour too much.
Yeah.
You know, and not burn ourselves out. That's why we lasted so long. It's one of the reasons. And you need to know when to stop, you know, so that your brain doesn't dissolve.
Sure.
And, so it's important not to stay on the road too long at a stretch. Come home and recharge your mental batteries and rest your body and your mind from the craziness of the touring.
Yes.
But, you know, it's just like any other job. You got to find a balance, I guess.
Yes, that's
I'm now
it.
holding this. I think it's better. It doesn't feed back away from the other one.
Okay, brilliant. That's great.
So if you want a close-up, we can get right up on it.
Hi there.
Ooh.
Well, I just did some Mick Jagger lips. Just a question on the other device. If you can just angle it so we can still see you, we can see your beautiful new axe, which your iPad. Where's that now? Sorry, Mike.
It's over there.
It's over there. Can you just angle it towards you a little bit?
Oh, are you seeing me on the phone or you're over here?
We're on both.
Oh, we're on both. I don't know which one I'm supposed to look at.
Yeah,
Okay.
it doesn't matter because we can see you.
Now you can see me seeing you seeing me.
Yeah, like I see you,
there,
you see me.
Or should I look there?
I think look here where you are.
All right.
And
just be over there.
Yeah. What was the guitar you just picked up? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
This one.
Yeah.
Would you rather me hold it up here?
Hold it up here, yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to get a glare off of it. It's a beautiful instrument. It's got a lot of mother and pearl. That's the wood on the back. The front is mother of pearl and abalone. It's just gorgeous. I've never seen one quite like it.
It's
so handmade
beautiful.
by, it's called Perla Company. It's called an electric gypsy. And they're all handmade, so they've got a personal touch. And they just use the most beautiful wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's extraordinary, isn't it?
And it sounds good too. It kind of sounds right between a Fender and a Gibson.
Nice. Do you have plans to do something with it? Have you done any writing with it yet?
We're in the dating phase. We're probably going to fall in love after a couple more dates.
I like
We
it.
might get married. I don't know.
And might they stay over then sometime soon, this guitar?
Stay over?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be sleeping together for sure.
Can I ask a bit about your experiences producing other artists? You're such a brilliant producer, and
Oh, stop to the compliments you're making.
I have to say it. I have to say it.
Thank you, but that's enough. Thanks.
You've produced some lush records, and I'd love to know a bit about your process from hearing the song all the way through to mixing.
Well, truth be known, I have produced some other artists, but not that many. Mostly through the years, I just worked with my band.
Yeah.
And the process is always the same with me. Is you start with a song, and you structure the song together in some form, and then you record it.
Yeah.
And when I record at home, there's no band around. I play all the instruments myself and build it up till it sounds as much like a band as I can make it sound. And then I can realize what the record might be,
Yeah.
But it starts with a song. I try to spend a lot of time getting the right structure and changing the lyrics quite a bit to make them better as I go along. Not just settle for the most common moon, June rhyme,
Of
and
course.
then I love recording. I love taking a piece of music. So anyway, the people that I produced, like Don Henley and Stevie Nicks, it was all the same process. I worked on the music and gave it to them in semi-finished form, and they would write lyrics over it, and then we would go in and sometimes use the demo and sometimes redo it again or change the key. But basically, start with the song and then just keep working on it until it sounds like a finished product.
Something I've noticed with your production is that there's a lot of space to breathe. Do you ever find yourself taking stuff out, or are you just really sensitive each time you're overdubbing that you don't put too much in?
Well, both ways. I try to not fill up all the space. Sometimes if I have a track, this is getting kind of technical, and I don't know what the guitar part's going to be, which a lot of times I don't. At first, I just run the track and start recording.
Yeah.
And just play too much off the top of my head. And then I listen to it back and I go, well, that's all rubbish, but this one bit's really good. Oh, sorry. This bit's good, so I'll do this again, and I'll put that bit in and try to find other bits that really fit the good bit.
Yeah.
And, but most of the time I try not to play too much. I usually have a general idea of what the guitar should sort of do, and I start from there and leave space for the other instruments to breathe and the vocal to breathe,
Yeah. It's so important, and I think that that's something I always hear in your production, that the song really does have space to use its lungs. It's not clogged or it's not in a corset, because it's a real art form that.
The corset,
yeah. I sometimes find myself musically in a corset and I have to get the scissors out.
Yeah. Well, the records I grew up on in the 60s were like that. They weren't flashy guitar overplaying. It was the Beatles, the Stones, the Beach Boys, Elvis, the Kinks, people like that. And the songs, I miss those days because every time I listen to radio, those songs were so good.
Yeah.
And the guitars were simple, but deceptively simple. They fit the song, and they never got in the way, and they had great parts that came in and let the voice sing, and never played over the vocal, and the arrangements were like, they're like 2.5 to 3 minute songs, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And I like that kind of music. So when I write, I think that way, well, the guitar should not get in the way. It should just do a job when it's supposed to do it, and then get out of the way.
Right.
I think that's just what I grew up on.
And I think being in service to the song and the voice is so important. It's something I'm always aware of when I'm singing with other people, that I almost tune into the voice like I'm imagining it as sound and image. And I'm finding it's moving all the time, and it's almost like I'm going with the wave, like they're the lead singer's the wave, and I'm feeling out where that wave's going all the time. So to go all the way back, when you were a kid, what was the first song that you can remember that got you really excited about music and playing?
Well, it was probably Elvis and Johnny Cash, because my dad used to play those records, and I liked the guitar players on those records. But what really turned my head around, like most people my age, was the Beatles.
Yeah.
You know, when they came along, it was like everything else stopped, and it was all about the Beatles. Changed everything, you know, music and hope and everything. All their songs were very positive and exciting and exuberant, and the musicianship was so good, and the writing was so good. And then, you know, around that same time, there was that whole renaissance of 60s music. It was just amazing. All those great bands. You don't have that anymore. Now you just have a bunch of computerized sort of virtual bands, it sounds like, but those were real bands back then. And they all had a unique sound, from the Animals to, you know, the Byrds, the Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, Beach Boys. It was just all these amazing songs. And you know what's great about them is you hear the song one time and you remember it.
Yes.
You know? And nowadays I might hear something, I think, oh, that's pretty good. And I'll tell somebody, oh yeah, I heard this good song. And I go, what was it? And I go, I don't remember. But you know, when I heard She Loves You, I remembered it. You know, when I heard Satisfaction or California Girls, I heard it one time and it was stuck in my brain because the songcraft was so good.
Yeah.
And so that era is very special to me, and that's what inspired me to, you know, want to make my life out of music.
Yes. Were there some really great bands in Gainesville that you had a community there as well, of other bands, other musicians?
Well, there were some bands, but in Gainesville there was, like, you know, a lot of like copy bands that played fraternities. That played all the top 40 hits. And then there was a handful, not that many, of bands like us that wanted to do our own songs. We couldn't get the gigs at the fraternity because we didn't play Wooly Bully or whatever.
Right.
But a lot of the bands that came from Florida, I wasn't really in touch with them, like the Allman Brothers and Leonard Skinner. I was out of that circle.
Yeah.
And Tom was too, to a large extent, because there was a kind of a explosion of Southern rock, Allman Brothers, Leonard Skinner, and all. So a lot of bands in Florida tried to sound like that.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to do that. We had more of a British influence, so we went in a different direction. So we didn't really have a community with those bands per se.
Right.
Kind of kept to ourselves.
There's a person, Ontario guy, here on Instagram, and he says, can you talk about George Harrison? How did it feel when you met George Harrison and started being in his community?
Well, that's a good question. It changed my life meeting George. You know, I mean, well, it didn't change my life, but it was a high point in my life. And he was so kind to me and such a huge influence and hero of mine. It took me a while to get over the fact that I was hanging out with him for a while and talking to this guy that was like this, you know, amazing hero of mine. Yes. But eventually we got over it. We enjoyed playing guitars together. You know, George, I met George, the Heartbreakers were on tour with Dylan in England, and George and Jeff Lynne came by to see us. And they came backstage. It's the first time I met him, and I walked past him as we were going on stage. And no one's ever done this to me before. I said, hi, George, and I put out my hand to shake hands with him. And rather than shake hands with me, he took my hand in both of his hands, and he looked in my face, and he said, bless you. Oh. I was like, what a sweet soul this guy is.
Wow.
And, so from then on, we were just, I don't know, he was always really kind to me and a very generous person in a lot of ways. And very inspiring to be around.
Yes. Do you find that his sounds and his choices, guitar-wise, influence your choices?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, if there's any guitar players listening to this, they probably are. It was a funny moment because I love those Beatles records, you know, and the sound of those guitars, which were Gretsch's and Rickenbackers, but mostly.
Yeah.
And I think that those instruments had a lot to do with why they sounded the way they did. And so one day I was talking to George about that. And I go, I love that Gretsch sound he used to get. And he said, oh, those guitars are crap. And, you know, if we would have had Stratocasters, we could have been really good.
Really?
And he was dead serious, you know.
It's ironic, isn't it? Because sometimes, yeah, just like what you're talking about, if you only have a 12-track or 6-track, limitations somehow direct the creative process if you've got everything. Yeah, that's so great.
But that's what George was like. He was very humble and very sweet, and I miss him a lot.
What did you witness about his creative process that you thought, oh wow, I really resonate with that, or I really like that?
Well, he was just like me, driven, you know. And there's a task at hand. He was driven to make it as great as he could, and he was willing to work real hard, you know, to make that happen. We had that in common, and we liked a lot of the same kind of music, you know, the same kind of guitar music, like Chet Atkins and stuff like that.
Yes.
And you know, he was just a beautiful soul, you know. Just like, listen, if you want to know George, just listen to his songs.
Yeah.
You know, give me love, give me peace, you know. And he was like that, you know.
There's another friend on Instagram, Michael Miller, and he says, would love to hear about Mike producing Marty Stewart's Way Out West. Such a wonderful album.
That was really fun. Marty, I knew a little bit from time to time. He played with me on Johnny Cash record, and I always liked him. And he called me up one day and wanted me to do a record for him, which I don't hardly do, but he brought his band out to LA. We set up in my studio, same place I recorded the Dirty Knobs.
Yeah.
And they were a great band, you know. It was so easy. You just got the sounds up and they play. You know, they hardly ever make any mistakes, and he had cool songs. We got a good sound, and it was a real enjoyable experience, and he's a great guy. Yeah.
It makes a difference when you're working perhaps with a band setting than just a solo artist. Like when you've worked with Stevie, does she give you a direction of what she might want creatively or sonically, or do you just give her a few different things? And
well, both ways. I mean, she's an artist, you know. Sometimes she's vague and not clear what she wants till she hears it, and other times she's very specific. I want this to be like that, you know, and then you try to make it happen for her.
Yes.
But she's a sweetheart too. She's just, you know, so talented. And she's also a very generous person. She's been really kind to me over the years, and you know, we have a very special kind of friendship.
That's beautiful. Yeah, I remember when I was in LA and I said to you, actually, wasn't it that I came round to your studio because you had some things perhaps for Charley and I, and we were in your control room, and you said, have you got anything you want to play me that you haven't finished, that you need some help with? Do you remember?
Vaguely. That sounds like something I would say, yeah.
Yeah, and it was so lovely of you because I'd had this idea that I was working on with my friend and collaborator, Nina Baker, called Hearts Connect. And we'd been playing around with it. And I think I just had some chorus chords, and I played it to you, and then you wrote the whole verse and the structure of the song. I think it was 7 minutes on my phone recording. That's how quickly you wrote it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I love working on songs, and I like if someone has an idea that they're stuck on it. I like the challenge of trying to help them realize what they want to do with it. So that was probably one of those type of things.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I learned that from people I've been around. Like I was speaking about George being generous. He was musically generous. And I try to emulate that too, you know, to be generous with people.
Yeah, you really do. It was wonderful also to hear, once we'd cut the band tracks, your tracks that you put on, that you overdubbed of your guitar, because you brought such a spirit into the song.
Well, thank you.
That was there when we were writing it, and it's almost like it completed the vibe. How do you feel when you've written something and it's recorded, and then you're doing an overdub? Do you have quite a strong feeling about the part, or did you explore and do some improvisation to find it?
Well, I typically work from spontaneous inspiration for guitar parts.
Yeah.
I rarely work them out in advance. I listen to the voice a lot, and I think of myself as the other voice, singing along with the guitar, and try to come up with a guitar melody or attitude that is expressed from the vocal.
Yes.
Try to be the other vocal, like I said, and so that's kind of my framework. And I like for things to kind of happen in the moment while you're recording, where I kind of know what I might do, but when I get there, I'll make something up. And sometimes you fall on your ass, and other times you come up, wow, how did I do that? I don't know where that came from. And those are the little things you keep.
Yes. Is that your process? I know you wrote with Chris Stapleton.
Yeah.
And I know you did some writing together. Was it at your studio as well in LA?
He came out here, yeah. And we worked on some, and once again, he called me up. I didn't hardly know who he was, but we got to be really good friends.
Yeah.
And we he wanted to try and write some songs, which I never do with other people, hardly. Eyeball to eyeball. But he came out and we spent a couple of days, fiddling around with songwriting and, came up with a couple of things.
Yeah.
And I got him to sing on my record while he was here. That was great.
That's great. Yes. Yeah. And then you eventually ended up playing guitar on his record.
Yeah,
and was that
the tracks and he sent me the tape, and I overdubbed and sent it back to him.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Music by mail.
Yeah, it's incredible what you can do today with technology.
We have to nowadays, for a while anyway.
Yeah. So and how did you feel hearing the stuff you'd written come to life and hearing it?
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of it I didn't remember at the time because we did it so fast. And then he sent me the tape, and I was like struggling, like, which part did I write? I don't remember writing this per se.
Right.
But it slowly came back to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Love it. How about for the songs you and Tom wrote together and have written? Do you ever come back and play them to yourself, or do you ever listen to them?
Well, I listen to the radio. I don't put any records on around the house unless I'm looking for a specific sound or something. But typically, I'm not that comfortable with hearing Heartbreaker stuff yet. Yes. But I do listen to the radio, and I like hearing songs on the radio that we wrote together. And I'm always really proud of the songs. I think we did some great songs together. Yes. But it's hard for me to separate the grief from the joy still, So I struggle with that a little bit.
I can really understand that. And there are so many emotions mixed up, because I can imagine when you hear a record, you're not just hearing the music, you're remembering the time and where you were when you wrote it and recorded it together. And it's
so we were brothers, and it all comes flooding back. Well, I remember when that part of the song happened, we all had a laugh about it or whatever. Little things you remember of experiences that were shared that stay with you, and then sometimes they make you sad because they make you miss the old days.
Yeah,
we must move on and be strong.
Yes. I was seeing a video of you with one of your guitars that actually Tom played on one of your early recordings. How does it feel when you pick up your axes from the very beginning when you guys started out? Do you come back to those guitars very often?
I do. I have so many guitars.
How many do you think, Mike?
I won't even say, but I am selling a lot of them. It's just because I don't have room for anything anymore. You know?
Right.
A couple of hundred, I guess. But, 100 of them are really, really choice.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I go back to they're like old friends, like
Yeah.
there's 2 or 3 guitars that I used on the first couple of Heartbreakers albums that I still go back to just for inspiration. It's like connecting with an old friend. Like, hey, here you are.
Yeah.
Let's do something else together.
Yes. Also, it's amazing how a different sounding instrument takes you into a different creative space to write, just even picking up a different instrument. I know sometimes when Charley and I are writing, to move from another instrument takes you into another different creative space. And being a guitarist, that's a really lush place to be because there's so many sounds you can create.
Yeah. Guitars definitely, a new guitar or a different guitar can inspire you out of whatever you're in, at the moment. You pick up another guitar, it's like, oh, there's like a window just opened. Oh, I can do this with this guitar. The other guitar didn't sound like that here,
Yeah.
So I use them like paintbrushes, and they have different colors. Even a cheap guitar can have one spot in the guitar that sounds beautiful, and I try to find those in every guitar. Each guitar has its own sweet spot. If you find it, you might dig up a song in there.
That's where the magic
is. I keep
is.
moving this because I don't want to feedback. So.
Oh, thank you so much.
I don't know why it just takes off every now and then, but here we go. We're all right now.
Yeah, it's lo-fi, but it's just lovely to chat with you and ask you some questions.
If I knew how to turn this down, it would help, but we'll just have to suffer through it. I'll turn this one down a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
So when you guys are writing for your new record, in the Dirty Knobs, do you come together and write, or are you starting out with some stuff, or do the guys bring things to you?
I always write by myself.
Yeah.
I always I write all the time. I've got too many songs is my problem. That's why my producer, George Draculius, was so helpful, because I had so many different veins of songs, and he helped me narrow it down to what the band sounds like and keep all the songs in one program so it didn't get scattered. So I just write whatever I want to write, and I don't write specifically for this band or that artist or this or that. I just write what I want to write, and I look at it later and go, well, this would be a good Knobs track. I'll try it with them when we get together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a great freedom to have, really.
It's a great freedom.
You want to do.
Quite right. Richie65 says on Instagram here, Mike, how old were you when you started playing guitar?
I was 16. I saw the Beatles on TV in 64, and then it took me 2 years for my mom. My parents divorced. We had no money. My mom finally got me a guitar at the age of 16. It was an unplayable harmony acoustic guitar. I didn't even know it was unplayable. I thought that's the way they were. So I struggled with that thing for a year trying to play it.
Wow.
And then I went to my friend's house. He had a Gibson, and I picked it up and went, oh my God, this is so easy. So, about 16, I got my first guitar. I got my first real guitar maybe around 20. I got a Stratocaster, and which I still have, which is one of my favorite guitars, best recording guitar I had, one of them. And I've been buying them ever since.
Yeah,
I got to get them out of my house because they're taking over.
You're onto something though with this guitar.
I might be,
yeah.
I think there's a future in it. When I grow up, I'll have something to do.
Yeah, after uni or whatever's. And for example, when you've been working with Ron, do you guys work quite closely together, bass and guitar? Do you discuss parts?
No, Ron and I have been playing together so long. I mean, we haven't played. Over decades. We haven't played lately in quite a while because we're isolated.
Yes.
But anytime we play together, we're so in tune. I just play what I play, and he plays what he plays, and it seems to work.
Yeah.
We don't discuss
Have you ever seen the Ron Blair book of chords that he has with him?
No.
It's so wonderful. He has this little wad of paper of his notes, and it's amazing. He's so good at notating and annotating. He's a real master.
Yeah, he's my brother. He's a good guy.
Yeah. Ron told me about you at home. Is it right that you had 2 speakers and you were listening to a Beatles record, but you couldn't plug in both speakers at the same time?
Where do you get this stuff? That is true.
Is it true?
Yeah, but I don't know where you heard that.
And so you could only listen to the left pan or the right pan. So you learned the parts in a really unique way.
Exactly. My dad was had an electronics store. He repaired record players, and said when my parents divorced, I was left with this turntable and 2 wires that came out of it. And I had 1 speaker to hook it up to. So I had the Beatles' second album, which is in stereo. So a lot of the stuff is on one side and the other stuff is on the other side. So I would hook the speaker up to the one side and play the record, and I only hear half the record. I hear one of the guitars and maybe the harmony vocal, and I'd listen to it all the way through and imagine it, and then I'd stop it and hook the wire up to the other speaker, and then play the record again. I'd hear the other side of the record without the first side, and I'd put it together in my head. But that was probably good because I was able to, like soloing instruments, and hear what each guy was doing individually.
Yeah.
It's kind of frustrating though. When I get to hear the whole record, it was really exciting. Wow, this works good together.
Right? Wow, they should like put these 2 left and rights together.
Yeah.
Might work.
There you go.
Delvin Ross says, what advice would you give to a young songwriter and guitarist?
Well, follow your dream, do what you love, and draw from things you like. Like for me, it was, say, the Beatles or the Stones. I listened to them incessantly and studied them and tried to emulate them, tried to learn what they were doing on my guitar and figure it out. And you have to be determined, and you have to really love it, but you should do what you want to do. You should learn what you want to learn. Don't make people teach you stuff that you don't want to learn. Like I never took lessons per se. I just taught myself stuff that I liked. And that's probably why it turned out good, because I liked what I was doing. So I would just say, like what you're doing, and don't give up,
Yeah.
The harder you work, the more results you get.
That's a really good piece of advice, because I think when you're young, you think, oh, they're more experienced or they might know better than me. But actually, no one knows what it's like in your own body and soul. And this is the vessel we've been given.
And I'll give you another piece of advice, which I got from Roger McGuinn back in the day when I was learning guitar. I read an interview with Roger McGuinn from the Byrds.
Yeah.
And he said, if you're starting out, you should play with a metronome. Of course, nowadays they have drum machines. But the point is, play with something that keeps rhythm. And teach yourself to play on rhythm, And don't just be learning licks and trying to play fast. Try to play on a rhythm and stick with the same tempo, for 3 or 4 minutes at a time. That's a good lesson, because that'll always make you sound better.
Yes. I love to practice with a metronome, because I feel like you can create space depending on where you're playing, and just to have a bit of an exploration like that.
This keeps you from getting excited and playing too fast or slowing down too much. And then when you play with other people, it'll help you stay in beat with them, because you've got a good sense of rhythm.
Yes, that makes a lot of sense. So I'm so chuffed that you've written with me on these couple of songs, and Nina for my album, and I love the songs we've written. And Ron Blair's co-produced these tracks as well. I wondered if I could ask you about, the descending in Hearts Connect. Do you remember? Can I play you a little bit of it?
Yes, please.
You did this descending line, and it's just so beautiful. And I just wanted to give everyone just like 30 seconds of it?
Yeah.
Okay. In this world where we live, of rules and regulations, it's hard to walk a straight line. I found myself walking on a tightrope. I'm falling. We all need love, and our hearts connect without thought. They only know they're only loyal to love. There was a pattern ruling me, running wild with the wrong ones. I didn't know I could feel this inside, till you came. It's so beautiful, that part.
I like that song. Yeah.
What
It's
made
a very
you?
Beatles kind of chord progression.
Yeah,
Descending minor progression.
yeah. What made you think of the?
I don't know. It just felt like it wanted to go there. I was trying to think of something that would take it somewhere else that would then also wind back without distracting too much. And it's a good technique to use on songs. The descending line over the chords. I don't know. It just came out of the air that day.
It was just wonderful, and I love the way on the album that you do the more. I can't do a power chord on a harp very well, but you do these power chords in the bridge.
Yeah, that's a good little setup for the next section.
Yeah. How long do you think a bridge should be? Do you have a rule for yourself?
From this side to that side.
No longer.
No longer. Well,
No.
8 bars usually, depending on the song. You want to, the Beatles bridges are like 10 seconds.
Yes.
Well, it depends on the song. Some songs require a longer bridge, but typically the bridge is just a relief from the verse and chorus to give you a breath of fresh air and maybe set you up for the rest of the song, so it doesn't just be one thing all the way through.
Yes.
But the bridge should not be too long, or it becomes another song.
Yeah. Yeah, because it takes you away. And as you were saying about the Kinks songs, there's such a directness. You really know where you are, and you can sing it straight away. How about working with Rick Rubin? Did he come in with any musical or instrumental ideas, or was he more about vibe, coming in at the end of the day and giving you some kind of support as a producer?
I'm trying to find the non-echo. Rick Rubin is a very talented producer, and he came to work with us right after we'd worked with Jeff Lynne, who was a completely different type of producer. And with Rick Rubin, we got back to having the whole band play together at the same time, which we wanted to do, and he was good to help us get back to that.
Yeah.
And Rick was good with songs. He's a bit of a task maker. He'd want to try every permutation of a chorus until you get the exact right one, which is usually the first one you play.
Right.
But he was also one of those driven people that would not stop until he got it where he thought it was the best it could be.
Yeah. Yeah. How about with Ben? Because you and Benmont have this incredible relationship where you're weaving parts, and you always seem so respectful of each other and finding a space that supports or complements each other. Do you guys discuss verbally, or do you just instinctively find
We
a
hardly ever
space.
discuss it. You know, we just did so many years together. We instinctively know what will work with what he's going to do.
Yeah,
We just listen really close to each other and the vocal.
yeah,
And at times you can just tell, well, I'm going to lay back because Ben Mutt's got a good thing going on here. And then
yeah,
when I say, well, that's not getting anywhere, I'll add in something in, try to take it and take up the slack when I can, and back and forth. But um, the most we would ever discuss something would be, you know, you play this solo in this part of the song, or I'll play that solo at the end, or whatever, and so that we will both play solos at the same time. But a lot of our stuff is not soloing; it's just interplay between each other. You know, making a sound. The two of us making a sound together by being sensitive to what the harmonics of the other instrument are doing, and we just kind of
yes,
know. I know if he hits a certain chord and I hit a certain inversion of that chord on my guitar, that it always works. And so we have, you know, just empathy. It's just
yeah,
natural. We don't discuss it much.
yeah. It's such a beautiful empathy, and the way Scott and Steve run all of you. You have. It's almost like you go to a radio frequency of where you will connect. It's incredible to witness. I don't
It's
think
called a
many
band.
yeah, it's called a band, but not many bands have it like you've always had it, that it's something that you just have such a strong direction together,
It's
and
magical when it works. It really is. It
it
just kind of does itself. You know, you're just there channeling it.
it really is. Well, I know we're coming to the close of our time here. I'd love to ask a couple more questions just to close, if that's okay.
Yeah. When do we get
So,
to the part where we take off our clothes?
woohoo! Right? Um,
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
and actually, do you remember a couple of times when we were on the road and you guys were all in a dressing room together, and we Charley and I had our dressing room separate, but a couple of times when we had time to hang, um, you know, we'd come and sit on your sofa or come and talk, and that is something that happens, I think, in groups, that you just get used to seeing people semi-naked.
Yeah.
My poor sister has seen me naked probably more times than she cares to recall. So my final questions, can you talk about a day that you look back on with joy?
A day
Yeah, or a moment.
in music.
It can be in anything, in any part of
Well,
your
there's so
life.
many joys in my life. I mean, watching my children being born might be the most joyous experience
Yeah,
outside of music. I mean, music is my life and breath. And I've had a lot of joyful moments musically over the years. I'm really blessed. But, you know, if I had to pick one, probably watching my first daughter being born was pretty overwhelming, full of joy. And
yes.
that's off the top of my head.
Were you there at the birth with Marcy?
I was with all three of my kids.
That's incredible.
Fortunately, my second daughter, I almost missed it because I was on tour. I landed and went straight from the airport to the house and got right in the car. She was going into labor, and so I did make it.
Gosh.
So yeah, and that's having a child. Well, Charley can tell you. It's hard to describe it unless you've been through it, but it's joyous, and it's you feel like a little tiny speck in the universe, you know. So it's very
Yeah,
humbling and also just very inspiring and beautiful. So
yeah,
there's nothing that really compares to that, you know, except
yeah.
maybe writing a song.
Right? Yeah, and you've got your human babies, and you've also got a lot of your creative babies out there in the universe,
Creative babies, yeah. My
which is
little
one.
bastards.
Yeah. What is a recent favorite song or piece of music, or it could be a piece of artwork that you really love, that you keep coming back to, that you notice yourself thinking, oh, I'd like to listen to that or look at that?
Of myself or somebody else?
It can be either.
Well, there's one song, Heartbreakers song that I wrote with Tom. that was on a record called Into the Great Wide Open. And it didn't get much attention. But every time I hear it on the radio, I stop and listen to it all the way through. And I really love it. And it's full of inspiration. And it was a track of music that I wrote by myself. And we actually used that for the record. Jeff Lynne co-produced it. And Tom wrote all the lyrics. It's called All or Nothing.
Huh.
And I just love that song. It's got a slide guitar that plays all the way through it. But somehow Tom found a way to put his lyrics in between the guitar. And they're brilliant lyrics. And I think that's a song that probably a lot of people haven't heard or got overlooked. So
Wow.
That's one that I really am proud of.
That's beautiful. When we were in LA and we went to the clubhouse and we were playing with some of the Wildflowers tracks, it was incredible, the dynamic on Don't Fade on Me. I'll never forget hearing you play that song and practicing that. It was a really special moment.
Yeah, it's a very personal song. And we did that during Wildflowers, and Rick Rubin was really listening to a lot of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. And so I had tuned my guitar like that, and I was trying to figure out something in that vein. And I came up with the chords, and then Tom wrote those really personal, beautiful words to it. That's the thing I miss most about Tom, I think, is those little moments of when I would give him a piece of music, and then he would add something to it that was just 10 times better than anything I could have thought of lyrically or whatever, and hand it back to me. And that was such a joy. I think that's what I miss the most, is those little songwriting moments that we had.
Yeah, that's so special. And it does live forever.
Yeah.
It does live forever.
Aren't we lucky that way?
We're so lucky. I feel so lucky to have witnessed you both.
When is your record coming out?
In the summer.
Let's talk about me.
Hey, in the summer, and we're mixing at the moment, and put out a couple of songs and videos, but not yet our songs. So can't wait for that.
I like the title.
Yeah, I'm so excited that they'll be out in the world, and
it's kind of like childbirth.
Yeah.
You don't want to let it go, but you have to just let it learn to walk on its own.
You do. There's been some stumbles and there's been some good days of walking, but yeah, it takes time, doesn't it? And patience, as you say.
Yeah. Well, good luck with it. I'm sure it'll do really well. It's beautiful. What I've heard is beautiful.
Thank you so much. Well, thank you for being up for talking today. And it's just so wonderful to hear about your experiences and how things have unfolded for you, because it does get woven into the tapestry for all of us listening to you and learning and marinating. So thanks so much for sharing your thoughts.
Thank you. Well, let's all say a prayer that this is over and we can go out and play again soon.
Right.
I feel it's coming, but we got another year to go or so. But we'll get back to it. So
would you say that that's the thing you're most looking forward to, is getting out back on the road and playing?
Oh yeah. I miss it terribly. I miss playing with my band, and I we had a whole tour booked, a couple of big shows with Chris Stapleton, and then our own little theater tour. It was all sold out, ready to go, and I really miss playing live. I mean, there's nothing like it, and the band is so good. I can't wait to show them off. So just trying to be patient and hopeful.
Yeah, well, we're also looking forward to hearing you guys out on the road. A couple of people have said, when are you on the road? And I think you have some dates coming up this year, don't you?
Well, we did, but I think we've pushed them back.
Okay.
Till early 2022. There may be a few things come up near the end of the year here and there, but no major touring until next year. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's just
in the meantime, we just stay healthy and keep writing.
Yeah, that's it. Well, thank you
Nice
so
to
much.
see you. I'm glad to see you. You look bright and healthy. That's great.
I feel good. I feel good. I'm back in London and I'm quarantining,
Yeah.
which is an experience.
I bet. Yeah.
Well, please say hello to all the family, and thank you to Marcy as well for helping us set this up today.
Yeah, this wouldn't have worked without her. I'll tell her for sure.
Please tell her. Just really grateful. Thank you. And a lot of love to everyone out there, and thanks for tuning in with us. And thank you, Mike.
I saw one little comment down here. The dirty knobs are going everywhere, all around the world. Wherever you are, you're going to see us.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen.
Okay, good health and take care.
Good health to you.
What's
Many
that phrase? Flapping your
chin wagging.
Chin wagging. Okay, good chin
Yeah,
wagging.
we had a good chin wag.
Okay,
yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Take it easy.